Hey everyone, the old nerve guy here. Time for my review update on this Unicorn Blaster. Welcome to Tag. Right off the bat, I gotta say this Unicorn is a very good blaster. Far from being perfect, but very good. I mean, this is a pump action Springer, top prime Springer, Talon compatible, and not only Talon compatible, but this magazine is basically a Talon clone. There is a few hiccups here and there in the conception. You could see I have a standard barrel, and no, this is not for performance. I'm going to explain you why I put that thing over there. That blaster got an integrated stock and an end-strike attachment point if you want to put a stock upside down or in the right way, depending on the height you want to hold your blaster. A little fact worth to mention: if you put a stock on the attachment point, let me grab one right here. If you put a stock right here on the attachment point, I mean the height you hold the blaster is right in line with the sight on it, which helps a lot with target acquisition. That said, I don't really fancy it, but that thing is modular. We're gonna go on the table for a closer look of pretty much everything on this blaster. Where this thing shines is because it is very modular. I mean, you cannot just use a top prime. You can remove this prime handle and completely remove the little Picatinny if you just fancy a top prime. Or you can completely remove this thing and install the regular Picatinny on top of it instead of this moving Picatinny prime, so it's a only pump action Springer. This thing feels amazing in hand. It is very heavy, and the stock is very sturdy. But let's say you don't want this stock and you want to use it more like an Aeon or a pistol, you have the option of doing it. Not only this end strike attachment point, if you don't want it, you basically just push this little piece of plastic out of the hole, you remove it. It's no tool. This is very quick for a change. We're going to do the same thing. For me, I run this thing without the top prime, meaning I am going to remove this top prime and I am going to remove the top rail for it. All the hardware is into the kit, meaning you got a screw for every attachment. You don't have to reuse one screw from one another. You have plenty enough to fix all the other part on your blaster. Speaking of other part, I'm going to show you to install this rail. It's a two-piece process like I quickly did in the review. Then we need to go on top and remove this little bearing, plastic bearing piece with a screw first, and then it's the two long screw that are on the top prime and that holds this metal prime member. And now you have your bare blaster. For this thing, you will need to snap your cover right here to give you a screw port for this top Picatinny. And then there is a small detail I want to discuss about that Picatinny. When this thing is in place, this is very smooth. It's neat. If you don't like Picatinny rail, this could be a good solution for your Unicorn. I mean, it's far from being ugly like that. For this rail, you see, there is a slope on this rail. In a lot of videos I saw, they put the slope completely on the back, where I think it would originally be better for. But when I tried to install it, or when I did install it, the best way I had to install it was this way, with the slope in the front, because the screw are a bit long. I'm gonna show you. For the front hole, the longer screw will not touch the priming member, even if it doesn't really matter. But for the rear screw, if you install the slope on the rear screw, if you install the slope here, there's not enough material, so the screw will go deeper inside, and if you force it, you will gouge and deform your plunger tube. I know I have a round mark on mine because they start to have some tension when I start screwing it, and it's because you're in contact. This way you need either a much smaller screw or to install the slope in front so it's gonna clear this space, and for the rear you have thick enough material to eat all the way of that screw so it doesn't gouge your tube. And now this thing look like that with the rail on it, which is not ugly. I kind of like it, give it a nice silhouette even with this slope in front. But basically you need to install it for functionality, and I really dig this stock because it is very firm, very sturdy, and on the longest position it is just perfect for my arm length. This blaster is quite nice, so I'm gonna run it with the stock. But that thing said, it is not all perfect, and it was quite hyped to us originally on the social media, and I want to explain you where my problem resides with this thing. My first of the few hiccups I had, this thing was hyped to us like a metal internal blaster. I am very sorry, but apart from the priming rod, which I half count as metal internal, the tube, which basically half of the blaster on the market have, and the metal barrel, which again most of the blaster have nowadays on the market, basically most of the metal is cosmetic on this thing. I mean, the trigger guard here, the little safety switch, which basically you will never use. This back cap, okay, functional and aesthetic. The stock adjustment button, the rear side, because the front one is plastic. And you see, that's one of my main concerns. Why, if you put that much metal everywhere, even that full trigger box, which activates slam fire underneath, which serves as a seat for the plunger tube, is all metal. But this is not aluminum. This is something ferrous, a cast ferrous alloy, which make this thing quite heavy. This is close to the weight of a Harrier, and the Harrier got a lot of CNC aluminum in. Their quick takedown system is very awesome. I think this is the strongest point of the whole blaster. Their takedown pin work, it holds the blaster straight and it feels strong. That would be a good point. But then, like I said, the metal internal would mean I am to expect a metal pusher, a metal plunger for longevity, and I don't have neither of those things inside of this blaster. That kind of annoys me. I don't even have a metal dart gate in this thing, which kind of disappoints. Nowadays, I understand this is for the friction fit. They use a nylon part inside this thing and for the simplicity of the whole blaster. But nowadays, most of the barrel are threaded on the market. I mean, even the Firefly from Monkey Mods now have threaded receiver for the extended barrel. I don't see why a Chinese blaster couldn't go with threaded barrel. For now, this is not really a standard, but it seems like the Chinese are going towards all the same thread, meaning the barrel will be interchangeable from one another. With the new metal dart gate coming in another video on my Viper, I can screw on the Harrier barrel in it, and it would work. So you're gonna see, it's gonna be funny. And with all this metal, even if it's cast iron, I don't care. I would have expect a priming block in the front. That would have put the life of the blaster a lot longer. With a good metal priming block in front of it, that would have been amazing. Then there is the infamous slotted plunger tube. This thing. And I would say this thing need to be replaced, but not necessarily for performance. I would say for longevity. This thing is just eating up both O-ring, the one from the plunger and the one from the pusher, because they move all the way into that slot and they get gouged into them, meaning you're gonna have to change your O-ring a lot more often on this setup. So yeah, really a full plunger tube would help a lot with this blaster, but it's mainly longevity, reliability concern more than performance, because with a dual spring setup I can hit with regular bamboo, not bamboo, with regular worker dart, I can hit 185 FPS even with this small tube. My most concerning thing about this whole blaster would be the thinness of the aluminum. This feels like paper. I know it's a millimeter, but it's a millimeter of weirdly textured aluminum. I am not even sure. Like this thing, yeah. This is very thin, very cheap. Like I said, it's a 1 millimeter thin wall tube, so I'm not sure of the resistance of this thing. And then, yeah, I need lubrication on it. You need to keep this thing lubed because you're gonna just eat up your O-ring. But this plunger, I would have expect metal into this thing. Same thing goes for the pusher. The other weird choice they made in their aluminum part, and oh my god, they flawed their blaster. It was this barrel. This barrel is the stock barrel that goes inside of there. Yeah, both tip are 16 millimeter ish because they're a little fat. If you try to shove a worker barrel like I did, you're gonna need Teflon tape because it will not hold inside this dart gate that is inside. But the original barrel and the ZWQ barrel fit quite nice into this thing. They grip very, very well and they are way more quality. But this weird barrel, they reduce the diameter by 1 millimeter in the middle, meaning it's thin in the middle, and they did that for one stupid reason. There is bearing on this prime. At the bottom and at the top behind this cap, there is a pair of bearing to counter the movement of the handle when you prime back. So when I prime back, this little bearing hits the barrel there, this one in front hits the barrel in front, so it counters my motion when I go rolling all the way on the barrel, but it scratches the barrel. Instead of deciding to put, let's say, nylon wheel instead of brass wheel on their bearing to correct that thing where it scratches the barrel like it does on a Harrier with the bearing prime, they decided to remove all contact surface for the bearing. Meaning, yes, there is bearing on this thing, but if you are using this prime, or unless you are really flexing your prime to distort it when you prime, you are not using those bearings. Those bearings are useless with this barrel. Meaning, if you want to have a very, very smooth prime, you put a regular 16 millimeter barrel inside. Yes, you will end up with a line on your barrel over time. Yes, you're gonna end up with a little scratch here under there, a little line on top probably, but it's internal like in the Harrier. This is a more economical blaster, but if you really want to take advantage of those, you need this full size 16 millimeter barrel in the middle. Their original barrel is just not working. This way, my priming handle will stay very, very straight all the way in my motion, because now the wheels are turning when I prime back. This thing really is a very good blaster. Like I said in my intro, this is not perfect, but this will do the trick. And since I don't really have a 150 FPS blaster like this one is performing right now, by the way, my barrel is 18 centimeters, stock is 16. I just put a little more over it, barely for accuracy, but it's 10 that it's more regular like that. So I really, really love this little thing. I might change, like I said, the tube for a full one for the longevity of my O-ring. Other than that, this little thing is like great like that. I don't want to change anything on it. Everything is super, super easy to put together. Once this thing is clipped, you really put the pin in and everything stays in like firmly. And this thing doesn't rattle. I really love this thing. Honestly, it's a perfect Talon blaster. The magazine is really a perfect Talon replacement. I really love this little bottom they put there to remove the spring and tune it. If your spring got too much tension, you can remove, let's say, one little bar, or if you need to remove dirt from inside, everything is easily accessible with this removable and locking plate. This is close from being perfect, but I think it's a good first try. They would just need to update a few things in there, put all metal internal in that thing, not some, all metal internal with a full unslotted tube, and you would have the perfect blaster with slam fire. So yeah, this XYL KM9 Unicorn, not exactly the new meta for competitive gameplay that was promised to us, but a very good step in the right direction. This is quite heavy for the volume overall, but nonetheless, one of the best and most interesting blaster I've tried this year so far. I mean, everything works on this thing. A few flaw here and there, but it's a Chinese market design. This barrel, yeah, I ended up swapping the barrel again. My worker barrel was not perfect. There was a little gouge inside that I made while making it, so it was not perfectly sealing. This is the Viper barrel that was in my red and black Viper, and I think with the gold it looked pretty nice. I might give it like a red paint job with the gold barrel going through it. It might look amazing. But yeah, that's it for this video. In the meantime, you can always follow me on Facebook and Instagram at @NerveGuy. Please leave a like and comment, subscribe for more content. Don't forget to hit that bell to notify for my latest video. This was Dave Fatag. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye.